Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my tips on how I get the best blurry background. What is up? My name is Tony and I'm a filmmaker and photographer in St. Louis, Missouri, and today we're talking about how to get blurry backgrounds. And honestly, this is something that was revolutionized with the DSLR movement. Before that, it was really expensive and hard to create that blurry background with a dad cam. So they came out with DSLRs and you could start shooting videos on it, and all of a sudden you saw a lot of high quality videos with that blurred background. So what is the blurry background? It's called bokeh in most situations, and basically what it is it's your focus plane is so shallow that only your subject is in focus and the background is all blurry. And honestly, this isn't any different from how we typically see. If you're sitting next to somebody on the couch and you're gazing into their eyes, their face is going to be in focus and everything behind their head is going to be out of focus. But then when you look down the street, you can see everything is perfectly in focus. We can achieve the same thing and manipulate it and exaggerate it in a camera because of the settings that we have with the DSLRs and the mirrorless. So today I want to talk to you about how we can do that in your camera. All right, let's talk about gear. Honestly, your camera doesn't matter. If you've got a DSLR, even if it's entry level, you could still get beautiful backgrounds. I shot this with an SL2, I've shot this with a Canon 80D, I've shot this with a 5D Mark IV, and I'm shooting this video on the Canon EOS R. Your camera does not matter. What really matters is your settings and your lenses. And honestly, you can get a cheap lens like the 50mm f1.8 and still get amazing bokeh. That's a $100 lens. It's the cheapest lens that Canon makes, and you can get amazing bokeh with it. So let's talk about some of the ways that bokeh actually works. The first thing is if you lower your aperture, it shrinks your focus field down so that you are only having a small sliver in focus, like my face. And everything behind me is blurry, everything in front of me. So if I put my hand forward, it's gonna be blurry. But if I move it here, it's gonna be in focus. Another way to get bokeh is to move your subject closer to the camera and move your background farther away. What this does is it stretches out your focus plane, essentially doing the same thing, making the background more blurry. So you can mix both of these two things together, put your subject close to the camera and move your background really far away, lower your aperture, and you can get really, really nice looking bokeh. All right, so let's talk about camera settings real quick. If you're shooting a talking head like this, 24 frames per second, I'll put my shutter speed at 1/50th. Then I'll lower the aperture as low as it can go. Right now I'm shooting at f1.8 because I'm shooting on the 50mm f1.8 STM, the nifty 50. If you don't have this lens, you need to buy it. And then for my ISO, I'm just adjusting so that the exposure is correct in the histogram. Got a nice little mountain going on so that everything looks nice and exposed properly. Then I'm just using autofocus with the Canon system. It is amazing, and I can walk forward, it tracks with me, I can walk backwards, and it walks with me. So I don't ever have to worry about focus then because it is setting the focus. I'm moving closer to the camera and you can see the background gets blurrier and blurrier. But when I move farther away, everything becomes in focus. And so if you have your subject way back here, your background's not gonna be as blurred out. But if you move them forward, you're gonna be able to see a significant difference in the bokeh. Even if you have a lens that doesn't have as wide as aperture as 1.8 or 2.8, you can still get blurry background. I shot this with a 10 to 18mm, which is like an f4.5 to 5.6 lens. So it's still really high, but because I put the subject really close to the lens and the background really far away, you can see that there's still some really nice looking bokeh background. Another thing you can do is you can actually shoot with a telephoto lens. So one of my favorite lenses that's super cheap is the 55mm to 250mm STM. It's just a kit lens, but it's an amazing lens. And you can get great photos because you crank that thing out to 250 and then you lower the aperture as low as you can go and you get really nice blurred backgrounds if that background is really far away. What telephoto lenses do is it compresses the image and kind of squishes everything together. But if your background is blurry, it'll look so good when it compresses it up against your subject. All right, guys, hopefully this stuff helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, if you haven't bought that Nifty 50, you need to do it. That is your next purchase. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you in the next video.